Isagi Yoichi, our beloved protagonist, is currently being slandered with fraud allegations. Hugo has done the impossible and restricted him. By forcing a freedom-type player like Isagi back into the midfield, Hugo is using total logic to dismantle Isagi's rationality. But Isagi cannot give up on that rationality now, because it's his greatest weapon to become the best striker. It allows him to find winning strategies despite the chaos of the pitch, reflecting the popular sentiment that he plays soccer like chess. As an avid player myself, with 2000 ELO rating, I want to explain why those comparisons are spot on. Today, we are breaking down the 6 core skills Isagi shares with chess grandmasters, and the 2 endgame tactics he could use for his winning formula to crush Hugo's philosophy. Even if you have never touched a chessboard, stick around, because learning how to think like a grandmaster is how you win at life. Let's dive in. Chess needs no introduction, but let me give a 5-second TLDR for those who've never played it. Chess is a turn-based board game on an 8x8 square grid. Each side has 16 pieces that move and attack in unique ways. The goal is to checkmate your opponent's king by attacking it in such a way that he cannot capture your attacking piece, block the offensive, or escape the onslaught. The first chess skill Isagi uses for soccer is board vision. Grandmasters have total vision of the board, to the point they can even play blindfolded. Isagi's Metavision is basically this. He uses his peripheral vision to input as much information as possible and create a bird's-eye view of the pitch, just like a chessboard. Thanks to this, he can anticipate the flow of the game and choose the best square to strike. This works hand in hand with the second skill of tactical mastery. A tactic is a sequence of moves designed to force a favorable outcome. Isagi takes his Metavision prowess to come up with many paths for victory. The best example is his play with the aid of Noel Noah during the Manshine Bastard match. With Noah's support, Isagi can envision many tactical routes for success. As an egoist, it's no surprise Isagi chose the one that forces Noah out of the play, so he can finish with his own goal, like sacrificing a queen to guarantee a checkmate. The only reason Isagi cannot make it is because of Kaiser's interference, when a piece is blocking yourself out of a winning attack. So Isagi sacrifices himself for Yukimiya to deliver the final checkmate. The third skill is arguably the most valuable one, analysis. The hallmark of any grandmaster is their obsessive review of every blunder. Top players spend hours with engines dissecting every inaccuracy and missed opportunity from all their games, to the point they can even remember positions they played decades ago. Isagi lives in a constant state of self-audit. While the fandom memes on his puzzle pieces, he's actually performing high-level post-game analysis in real time. He has the emotional intelligence to look at crushing defeat without his ego getting in the way, treating his mistakes as raw data points. This allows him to update his internal software after every match, ensuring that a mistake made once never happens again. The fourth skill is conceptual thinking. Novice players freeze when they run out of memorized opening moves. Grandmasters survive these unknown positions by relying on high-level concepts. Isagi arrives at Blue Lock with all the fundamentals, but he truly begins to evolve once he absorbs Echo Gene Patch's theoretical frameworks, like the lock formula or the flow state. When these theories hit a wall, Isagi builds his own, like the Genius and Prodigy's framework to deal with players like Loki and Rin. The fifth skill is Prophylaxis, which is minding your opponent's intentions. High-level chess is a constant struggle against tunnel vision. You cannot just focus on your winning lines, you must also consider what your opponent is planning to do. This is why the strongest defense is his ability to calculate an opponent's threat before it even happens, and racks up so many defensive feats not even Raichi can compete with him. This leads to a recurrent point of contention in the community, Isagi's teleportation. We see him leading the charge as a striker, and in the next frame, he's at the opposite end of the pitch, making a goal line save. In chess, you cannot commit a piece to an attack on the top of the board and then be able to come all the way back to defense. But regardless of the teleporting BS, the takeaway remains vital. Never stop calculating your opponent's options. Isagi survives because he respects the opponent's best move, even when he's in the middle of his own offensive attack. The sixth and final skill is dynamic evaluation, which is a direct antidote to Hugo's suitable destiny. Hugo thinks that players have a static potential, so they should choose a position that suits their abilities and station. To him, If you're born a knight, you can never be a queen, but a Grandmaster uses dynamic evaluation. We know that a queen is theoretically worth 9 points and a bishop only 3. But if that bishop is placed on an outpost near the enemy king, it's much more valuable than a queen trapped on the back rank. Isagi sees beyond the base stats of his teammates, like he did on the first selection with Shigiri and more recently with Ness for the last goal versus PXG. Isagi identifies their potential to promote. Much like upon reaching the 8th rank, he understands that any player, regardless of their suitability, can become a queen at the critical moment. This is why Hugo's logic fails. He ignores the unique traits that defy standard evaluation. Take the knight for example, the piece that best represents Isagi. It's slow, it moves in an unintuitive L shape, and it cannot deliver solo checkmate. However, a knight is the only piece that can jump across pieces, perfect parallel to Isagi's off-the-ball movements. Also, it possesses a moveset that even the queen cannot replicate. The queen is a master of diagonals and straight lines, but the knight's blind spot is exactly what allows it to deliver a tactical fork that wins the queen in a single jump. Even if Isagi isn't suited to play like a traditional genius striker, his unique, unintuitive moveset creates a threat that no perfect engine can anticipate. What's ultimately the weakest point in Hugo's philosophy is the unintended consequence of draw death. Hugo operates on perfect efficiency, what we call 99% accuracy. He wants to remove the 1% lock to create a predictable winning formula, but in chess, this leads to draw death. When two perfect engines play each other, the result is a draw 100% of the time. There are no brilliancies, no risks, no soul, just forced lines of symmetry. Much like Ego's warning to the blue lockers during the halftime break, if everyone approached football like Hugo, the game would devolve into a stale competition of tactics and physical ability. That's why, to destroy Hugo's suitable destiny, Isagi needs to move beyond simple calculation and create a position where Hugo's own logic becomes his downfall. I believe the final pieces for Isagi's puzzle are the overload and Zugzwang pieces. In chess, an overload occurs when a single defensive piece is tasked with too many jobs. If that piece moves to stop one threat, it must leave the other one wide open. We have seen a glimpse of this with Loki. Despite being the world's fastest striker, he didn't score France's first 2 goals. He simply existed as a threat so massive that blue lock defenders had to overcommit to him, leaving his teammates completely unmarked. Isagi can take this a step further by introducing Zugzwang, a German term meaning obligation to move. In Zugzwang, every possible move an opponent makes is a blunder, and they often happen at the endgame. By combining these two concepts, Isagi can create a dual threat scenario where France's defenders are physically forced to choose their poison. If they mark Isagi, they leave a secondary scoring threat open. If they shift to that teammate, Isagi vanishes into the blind spot for a direct volley. It is a 50-50 scenario where luck is the ultimate arbiter to decide who gets the ball, exactly what Hugo is trying to avoid. Rather than clashing with Hugo's targeted lockdown, Isagi must capitalize on that very pressure to evolve. He turns his opponent's perfect positioning into a trap where every defensive correction only serves to accelerate their defeat. When it comes to applying these concepts to life, here are the main takeaways. Board vision. Stop reacting to the imminent pressure in front of you. Zoom out to see the entire grid of your life before making an impulsive blunder that ruins your long-term position. Tactical mastery. Search for the most efficient sequence of actions to reach your goal and break them down step by step. Every move should serve a purpose, even if that purpose is a temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. Analysis. For this you have to turn your ego off. Review your bad days with the cold honesty of a chess engine. If you treat your mistakes as raw data rather than personal failures, you stop repeating the same losing lines and start honing your winning ones. Conceptual thinking. Rote memorization is a trap. Life is too chaotic for a fixed playbook. You need to build your own theoretical framework so that when you face new obstacles, you can come up with a solution from scratch. Minding your opponent. Before launching a big attack at work or in a project, look at the board from the other side and ask yourself, What is the one move that ruins my plans? You would be surprised at how much this helps for choosing the right time to act. Dynamic evaluation. Refuse to have static potential. A pawn on the 7th rank is more dangerous than a queen trapped in a corner. Your potential isn't dictated by your starting position, but by the square you occupied right now. So keep moving forward until you promote. Overload. Give yourself options. If you have many open avenues for your plans, even if someone or something gets in the way, you have another path for victory. Zugzwang. Aggression isn't always the answer. Sometimes the strongest play is to simply position yourself with such integrity and clear boundaries that your opponent has no good moves left. By forcing a toxic situation into Zugzwang, you win simply because they have no way to attack you without destroying their position. Personally, the most valuable lesson in chess has come from my grandfather, who used to say that you learn more from your defeat than from victory. As a kid, I didn't take that advice seriously. I cared more about the win than learning the game. But Isagi shows us that the best players, the Grandmasters of their own lives, are the ones who treat every loss as a stepping stone for the next win. Thanks for watching the entire video. I hope you liked it and learned something new. Make sure to check out my previous video on Nike psychology and let me know which Blue Lock characters you would like me to cover next. Subscribe if you want more content like this and leave a like to support the channel. See ya!